Is to try to get that little bit of away movement, get it maybe half a yard fuller than he's tended to do. Because of his aggression, he wants to hit the pitch hard and hurt the batsman's bottom hand. But actually, a touch fuller in Australia with the extra kick bounce here is useful. And Ashley, very, very interesting, I thought.
Of a test match at the G. You know, if the sun beats down tomorrow, I think this track will quicken up. It's a new ball pitch. It will do something, and the bounce is getting a little variable, so it won't be that easy. So they've got to restrict Australia to under 360.
Okay, we'll continue our conversations, but as we do, just a quick reminder of what the top stories of the day have been so far. Joining us, what a day it's been. Boxing Day, well and truly living up to its billing here on day one in a test match. We've seen just about everything. We entered this test match with Justin Langer and Sanjay Manjrekar knowing that the series is level, which means that every session, every day becomes quite tantalizing. So the two Langers to keep Sanjay Manjrekar company. Sanjay, I had to get one of those jokes out. I saw you and I remembered you've got a great sense of humor, and I'm like, I have to get that out here. I've been waiting for this opportunity.
Langer as in the anchor, you
waiting
yeah.
And look at Sanjay looking as handsome as ever. Look at him there. He was standing there smiling away. It's great.
It's taken a lot of work, Justin, a lot of work. It's tiring work.
Is that what happens? Okay.
Now when you've done it, now he's going to start blushing. Now he doesn't actually know how to answer the tough questions. But Sanjay, let's begin. Of course you are a master of this. Sanjay, let's talk about what India's game plan needs to be from tomorrow, from the perspective of the fact that you came back into it a little bit of a fight, maybe did not accept the kind of fire and fight that Australia's top order had, especially this young teenager at the start. So now how do they reset and approach day two?
Overall, I would think that India still would be happy with how they got us back in the game with the wicket of Travis Head and Mitchell Marsh. So India now have controlled the innings somewhat of Australia. Now they have to carry on the good work. And this match, I think, I don't know what Justin thinks about it, will be decided by which bowling attack uses this pitch better.
Yeah, I agree. I was really impressed the way India fought back after lunch. Australia got on top. We've talked a lot about the kid on debut, Sam Clumstus. He came out firing, but then India only took one wicket after lunch, but they really pulled back the run rate, which puts pressure on. And then to take those extra wickets in the last session, it showed good character, really good character. My strong feeling is that while Steve Smith is set, a danger man tomorrow is Pat Cummins. He has played some incredible innings for Australia over the last couple of years with white and red ball. India will need to get him out early because otherwise the game could get away. But I agree that how India then bat against Australia early with the new ball is going to be key to how this game ends up.
At one start of play, with the way Sam Clumstus was going, you would have thought at least 450, at least 500. Now, Sanjay used a good term to describe Jasprit Bumrah, saying the eternal match winner. Steve Smith, as you mentioned, just plays that role as well to put the pressure on him, to try and trigger a collapse maybe around him. Is that what Australia need to be wary of?
I think so, yeah, and I think India also, that's only about healthy throughout the series, then India will be very hard to beat. I'm sure he'll be up and firing again tomorrow to ensure that India aren't having to chase too many in the first innings.
Fitness is a key one, isn't it, Sanjay? I think there was I don't know about you back in the Mumbai studios, there was a collective breath when Jasprit Bumrah went off the field. They were with the physiotherapist and then everyone was analysing his expressions. Oh, he looks good, he looks fine, he's still happy and smiling. Because the support for Jasprit Bumrah from the rest of India's pace attack, you've got about a couple of overs, just about 5 overs out of Nitish Reddy as well. How do you marshal the rest of your bowlers to continue to get the best out of Jasprit Bumrah?
There's one thing about Bumrah that we saw. You mentioned him walking off and there was that massage given to his calf muscle. He came back on and bowled with the new ball. But I'm afraid Bumrah has to keep carrying this workload for a while.
I think the other one who's very important is Jadeja. Jadeja bowled well. He got rid of Constance, but he can he can keep it really tight from one end. If those two can bowl well together, they all were admirable today. Bumrah's obviously the wicket taker, but I think Jadeja is going to play a big role in the rest of this game. talked about Washington Sundar, but I think Jadeja he's a very, very important player, not only with the ball but in the bat. With the bat, his all-round capabilities for the rest of this game.
A lot of it also depends on the kind of conditions that will be on offer for India's bowlers straight up in that morning spell on day 2. So Mark Nicholas takes us through a pitch report of what we can expect. Mark? Yes, thank you so much for that, Mark. But just, looking forward to tomorrow, one of the interesting things that thoughts from the Indian perspective, which you haven't really had a chance to talk too much about because Australia are batting first, Sanjay, is the fact that there's no Shubman Gill. And Rohit Sharma, after all these conversations about not wanting to break Yashasvi and KL as a pair, has said, I'm back to where I belong in a sense, but back to saying that...
Especially bowlers, their batting insecurity has got people like Washington Sundar. Jadeja, I can understand, is a pure bowler in his own right. But Nitish Kumar Reddy being back to make the playing 11, knowing fully well that he's not really a number 5 or number 6 batter, nor is he a number 3 bowler. So I thought Shubman Gill should have been there and they should have gone in for an out-and-out pace bowler, somebody like a Harshit Rana instead of Nitish Kumar Reddy. And they could have got maybe more out of this pitch today. Let's hope the Australians also have the same problem that India had of getting, enough for their bowlers out of the pitch.
It's two conversations, Jail. One is India's possibly getting to their all-rounders a lot earlier when it comes to that batting order, but also Rohit Sharma back to open after KL Rahul has looked one of the most consistent, or at least looks one of the most assured Indian openers so far. Yes,
I agree. I actually don't mind Rohit going back to open. That's where he's played most of his best cricket. That said, I'm very surprised Shubman Gill was dropped. I agree absolutely that you should have your best 6 batters who can score hundreds in Test cricket. So I'm very surprised. And the Australians won't be upset about it. As the senior players and score a big 100 for India to have a chance.
Well, you've set it up beautifully. For India to have a chance, you need one of the experienced players to come out there and get into those triple figures. I mean, there's one who we've been waiting for that because in the past he's often been the boss of Australia. We've seen JL talk about it as well, and that is Virat Kohli. He knows the way that the series is poised at the moment. Very happy memories here for India in general in the last couple of years when it comes to the MCG. For him personally as well, he caught up with Ravi Shastri earlier in the day. Let's hear what he had to say. Kind of summed it up from both departments, completely switched on Australia and India heading into this day 1. And look at that, that's exactly what we saw replicated in what was day 1 of this Boxing Day Test match. We will be back with what will be day 2 at 5 a.m. tomorrow. That is when our coverage starts. Australia running day 1 of the Boxing Day Test match well and truly lived up to its billing. We all knew to what to expect with Sanjay Manjrekar and Justin Langer joining us on the show in terms of the fact that Australia told us we're going to do something drastic. We're going to bring in this young 19-year-old, though, I mean, he may be 19, he behaves 30, and he is going to take on Jasprit Bumrah. If you would have actually believed and the hype, you might not have actually believed it until you saw that first hour of play where it well and truly lived up to the billing. That was pure cinema, those first couple of overs and the interaction between those two players.
It was so nice to see a young man making his debut. He had a smile on his face.
The headlines that, precede any sort of test against the best bowler in the world across formats, who always has game plans, who is virtually unplayable, but he was played in those moments by this young 19-year-old.
Yeah, sometimes I think it just helps to be a bit naive.
Yeah, listen, I having been to the IPL, there's plenty of kids out there taking selfies and being out and taking selfies of themselves in the gym and hitting cricket balls. So I think it's more just the new age style of player, let alone the young Australian. But it's nice to watch. I mean, I think it's entertaining. It's he does it differently. I think about Virendra Sehwag years ago. He'd stand still, and I think it was 2003. He got 190 runs and was out an hour before stumps on Boxing Day. Now, he did it very differently, but it's still entertaining, exciting cricket. And that's how the game should be played, actually. So I agree with you. He wasn't just great off the field. He looks like a really nice kid off the field, and that's what the game needs, as many of them as possible.
I would love to know what the coach in you would have thought sitting watching those shots, and what the broadcaster in you said sitting watching those shots.
Well, I think I would have known Sam a lot better than I knew him from just being a broadcaster. I would have known what he was coming into the team, what he was bringing. So I would have been a lot more relaxed as a coach as I was as a broadcaster, as silly as that might sound, because I would have known him well and I would have been encouraging him to play his natural game like you do with all the players. So, and then as a coach, when it got to lunchtime and I'd seen the position he'd been able to put the Australian team in and the pressure he took off Usman Khawaja, the 38-year-old pro, I would have been very, very happy and proud of the way he went about his business.
It's been a while, Sanjay, that you've seen Australia's top 4 batters all reach half centuries against India. It's really been a while, virtually almost a decade. The key now lies with Steve Smith, who is just back to scoring those runs. That century has given him tremendous amounts of confidence, and he will be a challenge for Team India tomorrow.
Yes, and he also has shown us in this series, what a great batter he is, because that is one thing great batters do. When they're out of form, like into form, it's almost like an obligation that you've got to pay back. And that is what Steve Smith has done. He's got another innings here, and he would think that he'll carry that form into the next test as well, because that is the hallmark of, batters like Steve Smith.
He already averages 80 at the MCG. He's got 400s already if he doesn't build towards the 5th. But for someone like Jasprit Bumrah, who had been hit with the confidence of Sam Costas, he hasn't conceded a 6 in this format for over 4,000 deliveries. For him to come back and be able to get the middle order, to come back with that spell and pick up those wickets.
Well, and a very, very important foundation of great teams is the opening partnership.
The great champion to actually go away from his main strength, which is bowling good length. So that pitch map tells you exactly the kind of effect Sam Costas had on Bumrah, where in the 3rd session he didn't bowl a single ball in that full length area. But with the new ball, he was forced to bowl slower balls. He bowled a couple of slower balls to Costas, and he may have scored 10 runs of those 2 slow balls. But Bumrah was made to think today. He definitely got under the skin. I mean, Bumrah didn't react in the way that Virat Kohli and Siraj did, but he certainly got Bumrah to do something different. The moment he saw his, opposition bringing out the T20 batting skills, out came Bumrah's T20 bowling skills.
To be able to have those moments, this is the final test of the year as well. So you want to be able to see you at your very best, to be tested, to be able to dig deep and find that character within you. We'll take a breather. When we come back, we'll discuss just a little bit more about what was an exhilarating day 1 that hopefully sets up for brilliant day 2.
It's India who win the...
With Australia being 311, 6 down, Steve Smith still out there in the middle. Steve Smith, as we've spoken about, a confidence player. JL, Australia's plan in terms of the way that they started and now the target that they would have in mind.
Well, they'll just be looking to bat for as long as they possibly can. They've won the toss. It was hot. We talked about Bumrah before, and Sanjay was saying that, remember, it was about 36 degrees today. We were expecting 40 degrees. It's a very, very hot day. India are going to have to refresh overnight and try and bowl out Australia as soon as possible. But Australia will be thinking, we're going to keep India out there for as long as we possibly can. Today was a tough day. The longer we can have, the more runs, and that's going to be very important for the remainder of this Test match.
And that's just the cue really for you, Sanjay, because if it is going to be a long, hot day again of fielding, the utility of your bowlers, the rotation of your bowlers, apart from Jasprit Bumrah, what really comes into play for India? How do you put pressure on this unit?
Yes, and I think Steve Smith's wicket is going to be crucial to the Australian batters, and that might just tell us, after watching the Australian bowlers, we saw a lot of edges as well, not carrying to slips. So we'll find out when the Australian bowlers bowl whether the edges go to the slips, and that will, I think, decide the fate of the match eventually.
It was an intriguing one. Lots for those almost virtual record attendance for India-Australia matches that we've had here at the MCG for them to enjoy themselves, because it was about Boxing Day, the memories that Indian fans and Indian players also cherish in the past about these sort of encounters. We caught up with Cheteshwar Pujara to, in a sense, go down memory lane. Conversation. Are you just happy that Cheteshwar Pujara is in the studios rather than...
Don't remind me.
I don't want to remind you. Talk to me about that day, that Test match, the innings. If India called him Mr. Dependable after that Test match, what did Australia?
We didn't call him Mr. Dependable. We had a lot worse words for him than that. He was just... Those 2 series were magnificent. 2018, he was just so hard to get out.
Yeah.
and he was the rock. He was literally the rock of that side. They obviously had Rishabh Pant, we had Virat Kohli, we had some amazing players, but Pujara, we just couldn't get him out, and that's a key to, I mentioned before, those top three are the key to any great test team. He was the key for those two series, and particularly that one. And well, I've said so many times, Boxing Day is my favourite day of the year. It has been since I was a little boy.
Yeah.
That one wasn't. That one wasn't one of my favourite days.
This one could be, though, what we've seen.
Well, time will tell. Today was amazing.
Yeah.
Let's face it, today was some of the most extraordinary cricket we'll ever see. It had everything. It literally had everything. It means I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and come back and see it all again. But Boxing Day is a very special day, and I feel really privileged to have been here again and to have been able to share it with so many people around the world.
Well, we're looking forward to as well, looking forward to your insight tomorrow. Thank you, Justin, so much for joining us today. It really was a day that so many of us took, those moments away from Melbourne and the MCG well and truly living up to the billing. Grace Hayden takes us more about this wonderful city of Melbourne that we are enjoying as we enjoy the cricket at the G. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Attack. I'm not sure that's necessarily the easiest thing to live up to. I'm also not sure that they've perhaps undervalued Nathan McSweeney's ability to soak up balls.
An experience that also comes playing through, whether it be a Jasprit Bumrah or be someone like Virat Kohli, who played one of the most miraculous knocks here in a completely different format, where he himself comes into this test match knowing that it is level terms with Australia, knowing that India have a better record of learned here at the MCG. Can Virat show his true colours?
Test match, enjoy it, Virat. Thanks very much. Cheers.
You talk about psychological warfare often. That draw might just have led India to come here in a better mindset, knowing their past record here. Someone like Virat Kohli epitomizes that. When you talk about big match players who need to perform on occasions, perform at venues, crowd, because this is the place to be in Melbourne today on Boxing Day. So much talk about whether India were looking to add an extra seamer, but now you know what the team is like. What are the conditions that we're going to get out there? Sunil Gavaskar and Mark Nicholas tell us more. The script is writing itself. It's brought us into tantalizing even terms. Australia will be batting first. No Shubman Gill in India's team, but we'll talk about that later because India will be out bowling first, and so much of that will rely, of course, on the prowess of Jasprit Bumrah. He's having a spectacular year. He's overtaken iconic India.
Very good bowler. He wants to stick to the basics, which is to try to get that little bit of away movement, get it maybe half a yard fuller than he's tended to do. Because of his aggression, he wants to hit the pitch hard and hurt the batsman's bottom hand. But actually, a touch fuller in Australia with the extra kick bounce here is useful. And
we don't mind temperatures soaring. In fact, they haven't actually soared. We were told that today was going to be the hottest day expected, with temperatures reaching 40 around this time, but it hasn't been. We don't mind if the action is right on the cricket field, with Mayanti Langer and Sunil Gavaskar joining us. Yes, it was a shared session when you looked at the post-lunch session, but you can't think back about that first hour of play, a Boxing Day test match, to have a teenager, and we discussed it in the pre-show as well, and he said maybe he doesn't have the baggage of Bumrah. He doesn't seem to have any baggage at the moment, but he did exactly, if we simplify it, what he was supposed to do, which is to put pressure on the best bowler in the world.
And he did it well, didn't he? It was incredible to watch. I mean, if he can keep doing that for the rest of his career.
Yep. Just about 11 first-class matches in which he was averaging 40 before he's played this test match. I see at experts' view, it's one thing, Sunny, to put it on paper or to have your captain tell you, okay, take on Jasprit Bumrah, because he started that show.
Everybody in the commentary boxes, our commentary boxes literally have see-through glass, so there is radio commentary, other TV channels commentary, etc. And all the former players were looking at each other and shaking their heads or with their eyebrows raised. But it worked for him because he's 19. He knows he's got a whole career ahead of him. He's aware that people look upon him as the future star of Australian cricket. So he will be shaking their heads at the non-strikers. Then you had Usman Khwaja, who took 2 steps towards him, then realized there's no point talking to the youngster, and came back. And then,
while the bowler is just going through his releases, he is a character, isn't he? And from that perspective, do you feel that the Indians are like that? You saw even Bumrah giving you a smile at one point.
Yeah, I spoke to KL Rahul before the game. I said, have you seen young Sam Constance bat? He said, well, we saw him in 50-over game, the Prime Minister, and he was playing all these ramps, and he said, well, he can't do that today. This is a test match. And then he's come out and done exactly that. So Australia down with McSweeney and Khawaja and Labuschagne throughout the series, and he's put the pressure back on, and that's why Australia are currently on top of this test match.
First time in 6 years that both the Australian openers have managed half centuries against India. But yes, we saw all the fun from a young teenager in what is a Boxing Day test match. Everyone is here. People have been lining up towards, just to watch the fireworks in the field. And there were fireworks, not just with the bat, but the kind of antics, the passion that you expect to see every time India and Australia take to the field. That's a look. JL, that's a look, that's a glare. Often you've seen it on the field. Often it's actually brought the breast out of Virat Kohli, that little shoulder bump. What did it speak to you?
The first thing I say, I don't like seeing that on the cricket field in any circumstance. I mean, it's not a contact sport, right? So, but what I did love was the battle. I love the combat. And it's something I enjoy about Constance Surley, that he's obviously got skill, but from ball one he was looking.
11 innings is the contrast of generations, a juxtaposition of the way that they play. But if you have a look at our fours for good, brought to you by Aditya Birla Group, very important.
Who put the pressure back on the Indian bowlers and made them bowl a different line, different length to Khawaja than they've bowled in the entire series so far. Because the entire series they were all around the off stump on a good length, looking to get him forward. Now they were bowling short because they were thinking, oh, Constance is going down, so maybe Khawaja will also go down. So they bowled that little bit short, where Khawaja was able to come and play the pull shot, which is very good at.
You look back at the 2 wickets that have fallen in this session, but going forward now, having Australia's leading century maker and Mayanti Langer.
Really hard in the second session. They're going to need to do it for this last session, otherwise Australia could get away, and they'll be right on top of this test match.
This is the last week for us to enjoy this year, and so far these 2 sessions have given us everything from that perspective. For Team India, it's an important test match, don't forget that. It's been an important year having lifted the World Cup, and now looking ahead to enjoy that winning feeling again, because the Champions Trophy is around the corner.
It's India!
You got it, everything today. Cinema, drama, anticipation, real technique and skill, a touch of the humorous, and with 2 iconic gentlemen that join us here in our studios as well, Ravi Shastri and Justin Langer. It wasn't too many years back when the 2 of you were opposite ends in these Boxing Day test matches, plotting the downfall of each other, and now look at you, united in the box because of a Boxing Day.
In fact, when I came down the lift in the morning, I almost went into the dressing room. I forgot my way, because the last 3 tours we've been here, it's the dressing room. But I mean, a great day of Test match cricket. Boxing Day, you look forward to it. There's can be very intimidating, to a lot of people playing here for the first time. But good cricket all around, well supported.
And we've entered this with the series level. So people have played into that. It's been virtually 19,000. It's been record for India, Australia in terms of the attendance today and the play itself.
It's just been a perfect day of cricket.
Way of saying it.
Perfect day of cricket.
I wonder what Sam Constance saw when he drew the curtains. He did have a negative ball in his body.
We should ask him that tomorrow because of the efforts that were, the true impression that he's made today coming into this test match, the way that he went after India as well. But more than just that, India themselves, happy memories of Melbourne, Ravi. They come to agree.
Do that. So the kid was bold. He's been a bit cocky. He's been sort of strutting around a bit, talking a good game, but then he came and put it into action. That's what great players do. Anyone can talk a good game. He came and put it into action, and it was exciting to watch.
And I don't think anyone's treated Bumrah like that in any format of the game, leave alone red ball cricket. And for him to go out there, and he went out with the swag, and then some of the shots that he had attempted there was outrageous, to say the least. He tore that MCC coaching manual to shreds. He just tore it apart.
Our Birla Opus top performer, no doubt, has to be the young teenager. When you just go through his innings as well, he had his own team. This is your new generation, and they're playing in pure whites.
Well, to be successful as an international cricketer, you must have a couple of traits. One, you must have the skill, and the kid's obviously got the skill. Second thing, you must have competitive spirit, and we saw that from ball one. He was looking back at Bumrah, he got back into Siraj, and that takes courage to do so, and the temperament to do that. So he's got signs to be a future star, no question.
And I like the way when they went out to bat today, Usman, and he crossed the boundary line and he sprinted straight to the middle. He was not waiting for anyone. He wanted to be in the thick of the action.
They have a taste of him. They'd seen the shots. I believe it was K. Rahul who said we were not going to see those sort of shots again replicated in the test match, but you did. Did India have enough of a game plan to counter at what was thrown at them with their fire that was thrown at them?
To be fair to India, they wouldn't have seen much of him. None of us have. He's only played 11 first-class games. But I did speak to KL before the game, and I said, have you seen this kid Constance? And he goes, I'll win the ball. So he's got real skill and the swagger to go with it, and you must have that to be successful in Test cricket.
And what I liked was once the field spread out, he was quite prepared to knock it around and take the single. So there's an element of smartness there in his game as well, which will come to the fore as he carries on playing. He's got fast hands, and thank God JL and the others didn't see him. He would have been picked up in the IPL auction by now quite easily if he had shown that kind of skill a lot earlier. But he's got a range of shots, fast hands and nice still head when he's playing those shots, which is really good to see, refreshing.
He possesses a lot in his armoury, and he's also got everyone talking in what was possibly the most anticipated test match in this series on Boxing Day, which is in itself. Look, fireworks. I got a little smirk from Ravi with the what did you call it earlier? Was it just like a arm wrestle?
Yeah,
a little bit of arm wrestle.
So there's a bit of arm wrestling.
I mean, your reaction to that, Ravi? You understand?
Nothing. I think he just shifted lanes there, Virat Kohli. But then you see that say it's not needed. It's not needed at that moment of time. I think Virat will realize that later.
A million times, but we don't like to see physical contact on a cricket field. It's, we're not. The Melbourne Cricket Ground is for AFL football, which is very famous in this country, where there's lots of argy-bargy and tackling. But in cricket, we don't like to see contact, in my opinion. So I agree with. I think Virat will be sitting back. He's a mature man. He's a humble man. So I probably made the wrong choice at that moment.
I thought Usman handled it well there, and even the young kid. He just walked away after that. Just went about his business. Didn't give it too much of importance, and they got on with the game. But you don't want to see such things on the. There's a line. You don't want to overstep that line.
You brought it up well, Ravi, how he kind of just translated that to Usman Khwaja. It's been a while since we've seen some runs off his blade, and he got it. It's been a while, actually, that Australia against India have had the top four, all four of them contribute.
The crease in the last game. It was a grind, those first 40, 50 runs. But he went through that. He was prepared to look ugly, prepared to leave a lot of balls. And, once these players smell the coffee, then they don't stop. He's not sitting on 100 here. We've seen Steve Smith in the past. Once he gets on a roll, then he doesn't hold back. He doesn't waste good form when he sees it.
He's certainly not sitting on just 100 at the MCG. 4 already. Could change that column to 5 if he's got his approach right for day 2. What is it about the MCG averaging in the high 80s here that Smudge just lets loose? Every blade of grass here knows where Steve Smith's delivery has been put.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? I think a lot of players have their favourite grounds, and you just feel comfortable.